Gamepad.
Hi, I'm Violet Berlin and you're watching Gamepad. No, I don't live here, it's a TV studio. Coming up in today's show, one of the hardest games on the PS2 and more.
I'll be putting on a leotard and getting all sweaty to get to grips with the grapple system of WrestleMania X8. Which is all true except for the bit about leotards and sweat. And in case you were wondering, that bizarre figure with the stick is the superstar we created ourselves. Different, don't you think? Slightly more genteel, we visit floating islands in the clouds for the cinematic panoramic Project Nomads. Taking us on a tour of this mysterious skyscape, the game's German developers.
The typical battle in this game may play very different from player to player.
Looks like WWE again, but set in the future. After months of delays, Unreal Tournament 2003 parades itself before the awaiting crowds as a big-time online multiplayer sport. But for all the high-tech and brashness, is it worth the wait? Hang out and you may well find out.
Since the Xbox was launched, its joypad has really put up with some stick, and I'm not just talking about these little fellas here. For being large and unwieldy, gamers, including me, complained that it was just too much to get your hands around. So, as a response, Microsoft have brought out this, the S joypad, much smaller. Elsewhere on the game scene though, other controllers are setting out to prove that big does equal better.
Better or not, bigger is certainly pricier. This one's £125. Yes, money, not weight. It's called X-Arcade, and it works with any console or computer, past or present, and is perfect for playing arcade games.
Battle 1, fight!
Authentically. X-Arcade even uses true commercial-grade arcade parts, fully replaceable on site. Mind you, if you managed to break this, surely you'd have to be going some. Rather like Ivy in Soul Calibur 2, in fact. From hefty X-Arcade to normally sized joypads. Just as a quick reminder of the usual scale of things, before viewing the hugeness that is the Steel Battalion controller.
This is your cockpit. These controls are your hands and feet.
Some say ludicrous, others say lovely. This one-game controller is essential for guiding a big battle mech through the levels.
And lock on.
And the rest. At 130 quid, the package ain't cheap, and if you live with anyone, they might put their foot down. But you'll certainly get an awful lot of bang for your buck.
Move your vertical tank into battle. And scrap your target.
Maximo is one of the hardest, most unforgiving, most unrelenting PS2 games around. So here's Nick Ho Chi with a crash course.
Hi, my name's Nick. I'm just playing Maximo at the moment on PS2, and here's some moves. The thing about this game is, it is actually really, really hard. It's the only game I've played on the PS2 that's made me want to destroy a controller by throwing it through my TV. The bosses are actually very easy compared to the rest of the game, which is quite odd. I think the game's so hard in general that they had to make it a lot easier to get the bosses. General tips on avoiding bosses, keep away from them, jump a lot, and just move around very quickly. Each of the bosses have a specific weakness, and until you find that weakness, you tend to get blatted quite a bit. This particular boss, if you see around the levels, there are a variety of grills. You get the boss to sit in the grill, you whack his leg, and his health goes down. The only problem is a couple of times when I put him into the grates are actually covered up every now and then, so it makes it that much more difficult. If you get too close, he does this whirly attack. After he does it, he's stunned for a second, so you can actually hit him again. try and avoid the frozen thing, which I haven't done. Just sit there, tap some buttons, hope he doesn't hit you. First time I actually did this, I did it in one go. Come on. One more hit and he's gone. There you go, 4 hits. The boss of that particular hub is dead. Relatively easy, I suppose. And that's how you get the max out of Maximo.
From one of the hardest games on the PS2 to one of the most complicated games on the GameCube, it's WrestleMania X8.
What on earth can be complicated about the GameCube's first attempt at WWE, you might wonder? It will obviously portray lots of action, excitement, attitude even. But complications? In fact, on the surface, this simple sports opera can be summed up in just 5 words. Go on, have a fight. Plenty of options for that here, and over 35 real wrestlers, including new additions like Rob Van Dam, The Hurricane and Booker T, who join old favourites in more play modes than you can, and will, shake a stick at. As welcome as the various superstars are themselves, are the assorted bits of detritus that can be found lying around the ring, ready to get picked up and used as weapons. Dodgy collision detection, but you can't deny it was effective. Now for the complicated bit. The wrestling is paced quite slowly. This is to give you time to decide on an attack or counter. By blocking at the correct moment, you can also perform a reversal on your opponent. These reversals can themselves be reversed, creating a chain of attacks and counterattacks. OK, so you don't have to be a Kasparov or anything to get it right, but you can't be a Mr. Bean either. A good diversionary tactic while you're trying to get to grips with this is to enter the Create a Superstar mode, which allows you to customise your moves and costume and general appearance. He looks rough and ready. What do you know, a superstar in the making. Now for more complications. Your button presses trigger different moves depending on factors such as where you're standing in relation to your opponent or the ropes, so you can't always be sure what's going to happen when you press. And when you try to pull off moves which require simultaneous combinations of buttons, you have to hit them absolutely at the same time. Or you'll end up doing things you didn't intend. It could just be our fumbly fingers, but we weren't that bad at the last 2 SmackDown games, which had a much faster pace. In all, your enjoyment of WrestleMania X8 will ultimately be determined by how you get to grips with the control system.
1, 2, 3, pinfall.
There might be plenty of signature finishing moves, but the game itself lacks the signature finish of other WWE titles. This is Game & Watch 4, a gallery of retro games that originally ran on Nintendo's handy self-contained video game systems with static LCD screens. If, like me, you had a few Game & Watches in the early 80s, you might have noticed that no matter how much you played, that little watch battery never needed changing. Yes, thanks to the electronic calculator boom of the era, not only was adding up in your head a thing of the past, but these portable games of the future were a thing of the present. In Game & Watch Gallery 4 on the Game Boy Advance, there are design classics from the Mario world like Octopus, as well as Mario Cement Factory, Donkey Kong Jr. and Chef. A great idea, but if you can be bothered to track down the originals, I reckon that what you spent on retro chic Game & Watches, you'd save on batteries. I'd tell you the exact savings, but I haven't got a calculator on me.
I'm Sean Palmer and you're watching Gamepad.
Coming up after the break, there's magic, technology, floating islands in the sky, fast cars, and the big guns of Unreal Tournament 2003. But before all that, put your mind to this.
It's the part of the show where you get to join in. So, pay attention, here's your briefing. This PC game is the sequel to Project IGI. IGI 2, Covert Strike. Your character, David Jones,